Welcome, everybody. We are live at the 2023 and inaugural Diplomacy Broadcast Network Hammer Award ceremony. I am your host and Captain Zachary Moore, Commissioner of the Virtual Diplomacy League and number one in your heart. Let me tell you what we're here to do right now. We're here to give out some awards, past, present, and future. We're going to start with the Virtual Diplomacy League awards, which were published in Douglas Kent's fantastic publication, Diplomacy World, earlier this month. Then we're going to slide on over into DBN's own Hammer Awards, which will be presented by myself and David Hood. And finally, rounding out the show, we will live and for the first time announce the winner of the Diplomacy Briefings two awards, one for Literati of the Year and the second for Diplomacy Hobby Ambassador of the Year. Let's get it going. Joining me here on the stream, it is David Hood. David, welcome to the show. What are we doing today?
Hey, Zachary Moore. We are giving awards to people other than you, because last year there was exactly one hobby award given other than your video awards, and it was given to you, and we all thought that was not enough.
Agreed. That was not enough for me. There should have been more given to me. There should be no space left on this wall behind me. But I'm also glad to see other people getting some awards as well. A lot of deserving folks, David Hood.
I agree. And of course, we at DBN are happy to inaugurate our own Hammer Awards that we're going to give out tonight. And that's going to be an exciting thing for us to do.
It's going to be great. And for once, it's not the I Got Hammered Awards. And it's not the Hammered at Midnight After Carnage Award. It is the Hammer Awards in an unambiguously good way for deserving and sober participants, David Hood.
Something yes, and it's for those that haven't figured this out yet, it's short for Cal Hammer, the name of the person who invented diplomacy back in the 50s. This is another way for us to honor him by calling the awards the Hammers.
Well, we'll get to the Hammers momentarily after the VDL Awards, and then we'll follow it up with the Briefing Awards. David Hood, anything else you want to say before we get into what I would say are the most vied for awards of the night, the Virtual Diplomacy League 2022 awards?
Well, I just want to give a quick historical perspective. The diplomacy hobby has had hobby awards in the past. In fact, for years and years, decades really, we had an award for hobby service. We had an award for Player of the Year. We had awards for GM of the Year. We had awards for quality participation in the hobby. There was a writing award, and they were all named after famous hobbyists of the past, which I won't get into now, except to say that was a really fun thing for us to do as a hobby. That was essentially pre-internet days. And since we have, in the last 20 years or so, the awards have fallen off, and I'm happy that we're bringing them back. I think it's a great thing to do to help bring our hobby together, to celebrate each other and to celebrate people's service to the hobby.
Absolutely. We will begin that celebration of service to the hobby with some, I would say, preliminary awards, the undercard awards, the 2022 Virtual Diplomacy League awards. I'll put a quick plug. If you haven't been reading the quarterly editions of Diplomacy World, published by Doug Kent at diplomacyworld.net, that is the hobby's flagship publication, and I strongly recommend you check that out every 3 months. Lots of good hobby articles, strategy articles, goofiness, and banging on the table, hobby debates and arguments playing out in that forum. Everything you want, all in one place. And speaking of everything you want, all in one place, I want to award the Artificial Intelligence Researcher of the Year to a very special member of our diplomacy hobby, someone who has really put us on the map, brought us into the mainstream this year. It's been a huge year for artificial intelligence in general. A lot of breakthroughs, a lot of really fantastic and some might say scary developments being made, but I welcome them. And I can think of nobody who has contributed more to artificial intelligence research and development and publicity in the hobby than this person. It is Marcus Zylstra. Marcus, well earned. David, what else is there to say?
Way to go, Marcus. And we can only hope that in future years there will be someone who is being given an award to promote intelligence as opposed to artificial intelligence in terms of diplomacy play. But we'll see. There's always hope for the future.
There's always hope for the future. We'll need to start seeing some intelligent play before we start handing out those awards. The second award that I want to give out tonight is one near and dear to my heart. It's the second edition of the Student of the Year award for Virtual Diplomacy League players, given to the VDL player who values academic excellence and success. Last year's winner was JJ Raymond of Notre Dame. This year's winner is another player who really came on strong in the Virtual Diplomacy League over the summer months, was putting up good scores and thriving. And then September rolls around, academic year starts, and drops off the face of the earth. We don't hear from them again, and that's because they're hard at work studying, writing essays, or having ChatGPT write their essays, thanks to Marcus. So this year's Student of the Year is Jackson Roberts. Jackson Roberts, very well done. And Jackson Roberts' father, Dave Roberts, was actually 2021's VDL Teacher of the Year. So keep it in the family, David. How about that?
Yeah, that's really a double whammy for those not named Roberts, that you cannot get a teacher or student of the year who's not part of that family. Though, kidding aside, Jackson is such a great, promising young player. I do hope that he will be able to play even more in this coming season. He did play some last season. It was fun to watch him play. And I know that there have been distractions there, but it was great to see him face to face, and it was great to see him playing in the Virtual Diplomacy League.
Absolutely, a very strong performance at Whipping in April. I guess that was towards the tail end of the academic year. He really should have been studying for finals, but he rebounded, so we gave it to him anyways. This next award is one that I know a lot of people have had their eye on. Anybody who knows the finalists for this award know it was a tight race. A lot of people were circling this. It's the Michigan or Ohio State Alumnus of the Year. And it's exactly what it sounds like. This is for the graduate of either the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor or the University of Ohio State, who best represented those universities on and off the board in 2022 at the Virtual Diplomacy League. And I am very proud and happy to award that to Michigan's own Ben Kelman. David, what does this mean to you, to the people, and to Ben?
Absolutely nothing to me as an ACC guy. Couldn't care less. I barely understand who these colleges are, but I do know Ben Kelman, and great for Ben. I have no idea why anybody would go to Michigan or Ohio State, but if they're going to go, the main reason would be the possibility of winning this award. Way to go, Ben Kelman.
And with that, Ben earns an auto qualification to DBN's Big Ten Championship Board to be played this April.
How many teams are in the Big Ten? Is it 15, 12, 11, 18, 7? I have no idea.
At this point, it's how many conferences are in the Big Ten. I think we ate the Pac-12, Jackson Roberts conference, just earlier this summer. Well, this next one is an award that has passed from player to player. I thought about naming it after Brian Preble, but I thought it was better to leave it generic. And it is the 8th place championship belt. And this passes from player to player for whoever missed out on the VDL top board by just that much. Last year, it was Tom DeGrief, who was feeling grief at the end of the season after missing out on a spot in the top board. He ended up actually getting in as one player wasn't able to go. This year, missing the final top board by 6 points. That's less than one supply center. And only 10 points clear of 9th place by the thinnest of margins. 8th place championship belt goes to Jason Bennett. Congratulations, Jason. David, this is a big one.
Yeah, this is a big one. Jason, thanks for playing is the main thing I want to say about that. And thanks for participating. Thanks for coming in essentially in zero position. Good way to go, Jason. And good luck next year actually making the field.
Good luck indeed. Well, let's go to an award that is a long-standing one here. I alluded to it earlier. It's Teacher of the Year. The previous winner was David Roberts, who's a high school teacher that has also done a little bit of diplomacy with his students. This one's going to a university professor, teaches maths somewhere in Australia, probably on the outside or not on the inside. I don't really know what goes on that continent. But more importantly than teaching university math, he also teaches the likes of Brandon Fogel and Dave Maletsky just exactly why their scoring systems are so terrible. It is the VDL Teacher of the Year, Peter McNamara. Well deserved. And David, you know this one very, very well.
I do know Peter pretty well. Obviously, a spectacular player. He's famously wrong in most of his opinions regarding tournament structure and scoring systems, but most people are. But and he certainly is. But he is not wrong when it comes to making good moves and good plays and good diplomatic overtures. It is a great pleasure to see Peter McNamara getting the Teacher of the Year. Now, if he would just teach me something, I would really appreciate it. Peter, could you figure out how to teach me how to play diplomacy?
I think he gave up on you long ago, David.
Probably.
Well, here's something. Here's someone that will never give up. It is the only award this year, nay, one of two awards this year that is named after a person. It is the Jason Maspum of the Year award. The previous recipient of this award was Craig Mayer. He won it for generally being a thorn in the side of Bay Area diplomacy player Siobhan Nolan. This year, we changed the criteria. It is going to the VDL player who played the most games and generally just sowed chaos into all of them. His star burned bright at times, at others it crashed down to the earth in a fiery ball of glory. It is the one, the only, Christian Brown. Congratulations, Christian.
Christian brought some drama to the VDL, and you cannot blame him for that. It was fun to watch him play. One thing you will not see in a Christian Brown board is boring.
That is as well as anyone can say it. Well, we're going to get to some awards now, the VDL awards, in which we have been able to take some time. These are a little more, serious, important, emotional awards. So we've taken some time to interview the recipients. The first one is going to the VDL GM of the Year. This is the person who is being recognized for their outstanding service to the VDL for GMing games, especially games overnight U.S. time when I'm trying to get my beauty sleep and keep up this face. Really for you people, not for me, is why I have to sleep and keep everything tight up here. It is the one, the only Farron Jane, and we will hear from her right now. Farron Jane, 2022 Virtual Diplomacy League GM of the Year. Thank you so much for doing this, for coming on. Hope you're having a good evening.
I am.
That's so good. I would have had to end the interview if you weren't. First thing I wanted to ask, Farron, you won 2022 VDL GM of the Year, the industry's highest honor. What I want to know, because I GM some games, probably not as many as you, what do you do while you're GMing?
It kind of depends a little bit. A lot of times, honestly, I will get the game going, and then I'll head out for coffee because I kind of assume nothing's going to happen at the beginning of the game, and I can safely go to Starbucks, and I'll have my earbuds in, listening to some of the audio or waiting to get buzzed by someone just in case. And then I'll come back and I'll be doing chores, waiting for someone, like just kind of casually listening, waiting for someone to buzz in and be like, hey, we need you. It gives me an excuse to be productive. It doesn't always work out though, because there definitely have been times where like the game just gets started and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go run to Starbucks. And I go run to Starbucks and I'm in line and suddenly I have someone like in my ear saying like, we need a GM. And I'm like, oh boy. So, but usually the first hour is pretty quiet. So
yeah, that's really a heart-sinking feeling when you hear that voice or when you get the DM 4 minutes later.
Right, yeah. Where are you?
Oh god, that happens. Are you a jump around the voice room person ever, an eavesdrop, or are you mostly sitting at the game table hearing the recriminations there?
I will either sit at the game table or just sit in the GM room. I don't generally. I don't think I've ever hopped around in the voice chats because I don't want to mess with the game.
Mm.
And sure, I'm not negotiating, but just knowing that someone's listening to you can still affect what someone chooses to say and how they choose to express themselves. And I don't want to tamper with the game. I think my job as a GM is to do no harm, right? First, do no harm. So I definitely don't ever want to, in some way, tip the scales of the game, because diplomacy is a complex game, and when it comes to social interaction, like small things can have a serious effect.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Is you first of all, I love that kind of Hippocratic oath of GMing. I might add that to the handbook. Um, but yeah, I wonder about that sometimes. Because we have spectators sometimes jumping around, the sideline reporters, and at WDC a year ago we had the whole Facebook crew with their cameras following people around. I always wondered if I'm another player on that board. Not that I would ever be on a top board, and I'm kind of paying attention to. Oh, it's interesting that the sideline reporter is so interested in this conversation. Even that type of thing might have an effect. Just knowing that the
So,
conversation is interesting.
as somebody who's played on a couple of top boards,
Mhm.
um, and has, I think the first few times, maybe the first time or two I played on a top board, and there were sideline reporters, maybe that affected what I chose to say. I don't think it ever affected my strategy, but maybe it affected like how I
Mm.
chose to express myself because someone's listening. But I think anymore, it doesn't faze me at all. Like all that happens is I hear someone enter the room, and I look to see if it's a player or not, and if it's a sideline reporter, it doesn't even affect me anymore. I just keep playing. I just keep going. So when I first started doing top boards, maybe it affected things a little bit, but anymore, not at all.
Mm. A savvy veteran, we call that. Um,
I or a fool, I don't know which.
or a fool. It's a thin line. So,
Yeah.
one area in which you're not a fool, and kind of speaking of your efforts sometimes futile to be productive while you're GMing, I know that you're studying currently in your life a little bit of a graduate education,
Mhm.
um, and GMing is a good time to do homework. Maybe that's part of the copy. Who knows? What do you study, and why are you doing that?
So I'm in grad school. I'm studying, let's say, something related to international relations.
Okay.
Um, and I think the real it's an area of interest for me, but it also relates to my career field. So I'm pursuing a master's degree to further my career, but I'm
Mhm.
also doing it because it's something that I think betters myself and prepares me for the future and makes me a better leader. With my job and the organization that I work in and the nature of my work, I think a lot about what can I do to make myself a more effective leader because that's my job. My job is to lead. Like
Mm.
that's really the entire job that I have. So, educating myself, becoming more knowledgeable about various topics is how I become a better leader.
Wow. Yeah, it's cool. I bet there's a lot of people. I mean, I bet a lot of people in our, I don't know, 18 to 24 demographic probably have thought about grad school or trying to plan their life 10 years ahead, and it's really helpful, I would imagine, to hear somebody else's motivation and someone who's going in with goals and specific outcomes that they're looking for, something like that. um,
Hopefully I get there.
hopefully so. You're a board leader if nothing else. So, speaking of your international relations and your international, you know, life, you do these round one VDL games, which I always sleep through. I never wake up at 2 a.m. and participate in these in any way. Do they have a different culture or style, in your opinion, than the rounds one or two or two or three?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. The biggest difference is Peter McNamara. Um, I have played so many boards with Peter McNamara now. We know each other very well by this point. We know each other's play styles very well. And I think every time Peter and I are on a board, we both have this same moment of like deep sigh. Because I've looked at the results, and when Peter and I are on the same board, we don't do good. We don't. We kind of keep each other in check. And, maybe sometimes I'll end up running away with it or he'll end up running away with it. But generally speaking, if he and I are both on a board, we can reliably count on having mediocre results.
That is lovely. Mutually assured destruction between
Essentially,
Baron
yeah.
Jane and Peter McNamara. Oh, that's the first time I've heard someone like hint at knowing Peter McNamara well.
We've played a lot.
Okay, last thing before I get yelled at by Hood for going too long. You've GM'd, by my count, 5 VDL games this year. Thank you. You're on the top board. You've played for, I think since you joined the hobby, I think you've been in the VDL. So you know it well. Why should or why shouldn't, I'll give you that option as well. Why should or shouldn't a new player coming into the hobby play Virtual Diplomacy League games?
So, unlike tournaments, each individual VDL game is relatively low stress because you can play kind of as many games as you want. You can come in, and it's not the same style as a tournament structure where, oh my god, every game counts. Maybe I can only drop one game, and it's just this like stress. I think video games are a little more laid back, a little more relaxed, and I think that can be beneficial to a new player. For me, I wanted to come in, play 4 games, call it a day, and qualify. So they weren't necessarily low stress for me. But if you're willing to grind out some more games, then yeah, you can have a few games that are just kind of throwaway, relaxed games.
Well, that's a good answer. I'd love to hear that. Love to hear that it's low stress. And I just checked the standings. You did play exactly 4 games, and you did qualify.
Yes.
Good job by you.
I had the fewest games of any qualifier.
Oh, that should have been its own award. All right. I like that as a new award. Well, thank you, Farron, so much. Appreciate what you do for VDL. Appreciate what you do for the hobby, and best of luck in a couple weeks on the top board.
Thank you. I'm looking forward, and maybe for the first time ever, I'll win a top board.
Yes.
We'll see.
Yes. All right. Well, David, that was Farron Jane accepting GM of the Year, and Farron Jane appearing on camera on DBN for the first time. Great journalism by whoever did the interview there to make that happen. And
it was great journalism, but it was not time-efficient journalism. I just want to point that out.
Like any good diplomacy player, I was given 5 minutes and I took 10. If only I could do that with supply centers.
That was not too much Farron. It was too much Zachary Moore.
Come on, there's no such thing, David Hood. Well, let's get to an efficient and professional interview with the winner, one of the winners of the Insomniac of the Year award. This is one of the most treasured awards of the VDL circuit. This goes to players who stay up all night playing diplomacy, and this year it has 2 winners because 2 players completed the 3-game challenge, which is participating in all 3 rounds of VDL in one day for a total of 21 consecutive hours of diplomacy. Not great for your health, but great for helping me fill boards. The 2 winners are 2 rookies, Cody Green and Muhammad A. And David Hood, you had a chance to sit down with Cody Green and chat with him about this award and more. So we will throw that up right now.
Hello, Cody Green, and welcome to DBN's Hammer Awards show.
Okay.
Glad you're here. Tell us a little bit about how, where you are and how you got into diplomacy to begin with.
I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I played a game I don't remember the game now, but I had a group of friends that told me about diplomacy, and I've never heard of it. And they're like saying, it's like Risk, and but not without dice rolling. And I'm like, no way. That's a miracle. I've never played a game like that before. And so I got into that, and then I went on Reddit and tried to find. I knew there was Discords, I just didn't know where. So somebody got me into the Nexus League, which then got me into other things, and then so on and so forth. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Well, we're glad you did. Now, you're here because you, along with another guy, won the Insomniac of the Year award from the Virtual Diplomacy League. And that's because you, in the last game day of the league, I believe you played a couple of games and maybe participated for hours and hours on end. Tell us what possessed you to do that.
Well, I don't get sleep. I have PTSD, so I have to take sleeping medicine to go to sleep. So if I don't take my sleeping medicine, I can stay up for 30, 40 hours and not feel tired. So I was like, well, I tried to shoot as far as I could in the VDL, only that I started halfway through the year. So
Right.
I made it halfway into the league with that. So, I mean, not too bad for only 6 months of play.
Well, I agree with that, and it was fun to have you join the league for sure. What was it like to play as a relatively new player in the Virtual Diplomacy League this season?
Well, at first it was rough, getting used to playing the game, and then it was a little bit better, and then it started maybe getting a little frustrating because it like the old timers, or maybe not the old timers, but the more experienced players just seemed, for me personally, they always work with themselves, and then like the newer players kind of have to just sit back and take the butt whooping, and that's kind of how I felt. But I did get the point of why would they would play it safe. They want to obviously make it to the finals, right? So they want to know who they're going to be able to work with, and they know who to work with. So makes sense. But
Yeah,
newer.
the only solution to that really is to keep playing, and then you're no
Yep.
longer a new player.
Yep.
That's and play in addition to allying with and working with each other as newer players. But that can be hard to do that as you first join the league.
Right, that's fair, and that's one thing that I was upset, obviously, but I told everybody it ain't gonna stop me from playing. I'm gonna play and play and play until I get better, and learn that maybe I don't have to have allies. Maybe I'll just take all the boards myself and don't need nobody. It's okay.
See, that's the kind of attitude I like to see from newer diplomacy players. Way to go, Cody Green.
Thank you.
Way to go for winning Insomniac of the Year. And I'm looking forward to seeing better things and bigger things from you in future seasons of the VDL and otherwise.
Yep, I will be in the finals next year, or well, this year, I should say. I'm shooting for it.
I'll be happy to see it, and so will a lot of our people out in diplomacy land. Thanks for being on the show tonight.
All right, thank you, man. You have a great and wonderful day.
You got it.
Well, Cody Green calling his shot. He's going to be in the finals next year, and I believe him. He improved throughout the year. I saw him improve throughout the year in VDL. I saw him get a lot of good games in, despite the old timers like you, David Hood, who kind of tried to railroad him. I think he's going to make it.
Yeah, I think the future is up for Cody Green, and that was good to hear. And of course, I was happy to hear him share a little bit about himself. We're joking a lot tonight, and that's what we're here to do. But it's a serious point to make that we sometimes can make good friendships in this hobby for people that need them. And I, for one, think that is one reason for us to build this hobby the way we're doing it.
100%, David. We got another award that I think will go a long way to build the hobby and celebrates the achievements of somebody who did build the hobby. It's our second award who has a namesake. That is the Queen Elizabeth Award. The Queen Elizabeth Award goes to the player who best represents royal values of Her late Majesty. But more than that, it represents the British player who had the best England in 2022 in the Virtual Diplomacy League, and that is Michalis Kamarites. So being interviewed by fellow British subject Christopher Ward. Here is Michalis Conriquez.
I am joined by the worthy recipient of a very special award. British, with a Greek family and a penchant, excuse my French, for holding territories across the seas, the late Majesty Queen Elizabeth has given her name to this prize. The Queen Elizabeth Award is given to the British player who has achieved the highest score as England in the Virtual Diplomacy League this season. My guest today is known by many names, including McCandless, McKellas, McCullers, McFarlanes, Michaela, McCullum, McAllister, McHale, McCulloch, McCarthy, McLeish, Mickelson, Make-A-Wish, and of course, Hellenic Riot. Michalis Conriquez, welcome.
Delighted to be here, old chap.
Very good, Erdbean. Now, Mr. Zachary Moore, an American, but who does his jolly utmost, I'm sure, as the so-called commissioner of the VDL, has written thusly in the Diplomacy World zine. Quote, as its name suggests, this award goes to the loyal British subject, whose play and lifestyle most perfectly exemplifies the values and character of the late Queen Elizabeth. But even more than that, it goes to the British player who had the best game as England in 2022, and that is Michalis, with an 11 centre spelt incorrectly and miscounted board top. On the board, Michalis exhibits the strength and charisma and tenacity of the royal family, while off the board, he truly shines as a flag bearer of royal values. Thank you, Michalis. End quote. Now, congratulations, sir, on your award. And firstly, perhaps you can inform our audience of how you most like to uphold such regal values in your own daily life.
Well, I think as one of the most high-profile players from this great nation to play diplomacy, it is my job, nay, my duty, to wave to all of those who are, of course, desperate to see my great face and bask in my aura. And so, as a true Brit and one who always attempts to live up to her late great majesty and the fantastic example and dignity and honor that she set on this country and all of our subjects, it is of course, yes, my role to embody that. And so to those less fortunate than myself, I am always gracious, I maintain my dignity, and I will always look to help them as I would help anyone who is maybe struggling and who is looking for that little bit of stardust that I can just brush off onto them.
Quite right. Quite right. And we are very grateful to you for that show of generosity.
It is my pleasure.
Now, considering the game in question, that is VDL 116, Hereditary, just like our favourite way of transferring wealth and power, you played a remarkably successful alliance with France. Now, tell us about the game from your perspective, including whether or not you considered embodying the spirit of a former monarch of this great country, King Henry V, by giving the French a jolly good kick up the Agincourt.
Well, it was an exceptional game. I mean, early on, myself and France, and of course, also at the time, Russia and Italy had all decided that the Germans were the enemy, and that 2 World Wars and 1 World Cup were not quite enough. So we needed to wipe them off of 1 diplomacy game as well. So
take that, Jerry.
Exactly. That was quickly established, and on we marched. Through there we went. And then it came to a decision point where I could, as you say, I could have embodied the spirit of Agincourt and Crécy and gone after the French, or I could embrace the more the lesser known Russian Civil War, where we marched in to overthrow the commies, and whilst in real life that didn't work out quite so well for us, here I gave the commies a good seeing to and taught them that hereditary game by name and hereditary by nature, royalty was what was superior. And so the Soviet scum were removed and reduced to vassal status. And then later on, when myself and France had brilliantly tactically outsmarted the opponents, we had to make a decision on whether to go after each other or instead to embrace the other fantastic spirit of British culture, loyalty. And we took the spirit of World War One and the Entente Cordiale, and of course of World War Two, where the Brits and the French fought side by side up until the French surrendered. And we went right to the end of the game in perfect lockstep, because why fight when you are the two greatest nations on the board? And France had accepted that British superiority was important. So we took the shared board top, and it was a good result for both of us.
How very cricket, sir. Well done. And those Jerrys and the Russians, they don't like it up 'em, do they?
Wow, I didn't really care. They were just in the way. I saw them as chess pieces, and they needed to be removed.
Very good. Now, we Britons, and indeed the world, were left bereft by the sad passing of our great Queen last year. In that context, your sterling performance there stands as an even greater display of the British stiff upper lip, if I may say. So well done, sir. Well done to you.
Thank you.
Now, however, as one door closes, so another opens. So my question is this: how might your play style evolve to reflect the values of our new king? No, not Timothy Crosby, but Charles III.
Well, I mean, one of the many things that brought this great nation together last year was, after her sad passing, the queuing to see the great lady herself lying in state, dignified as ever. And whilst no true Brit would ever think of jumping the queue, no matter what silly little TV show they were supposedly representing, I think I myself am delighted to display that same patience and dignity in terms of my playstyle on a diplomacy board, because the Queen never moved too quickly, and King Charles has never moved too quickly. They are great people. They take their time, they prepare for things, and that is something I always look to replicate on a diplomacy board, because you never know when you jump the gun, and next thing you know, you're like the French and you're having your head cut off, and that's no way to play a game.
That'll never do.
Exactly.
Now, our new king, of course, has made a name for himself as being involved in green issues. Does this mean we need to look out for a Michalis Cameritis Italian solo?
I mean, Italy is a wonderful country, and we have a long and shared history of occasionally working together and often not. But Italy, on a diplomacy board, is a good nation to display the traits of the Great British Navy in the Med, and you can really utilize the Italian Navy and go after any of your neighbors. And of course, if you're going to make an Italian solo, it will always involve giving the French a jolly good seeing to, and therefore is something that should be welcomed at all times. And as a Greek, it will also involve giving the Turks a jolly good seeing to, and therefore I can welcome it on that front too.
Here, Michalis Cameritis, thank you.
Jolly glad to be here.
God save the king.
God save the king.
Excellent.
It is always a singular pleasure to see old Wallaby here on the screen. But hats off to young Michalis Cameritis. All I can say is well challenged.
I'm not even going to try, but that was excellent. It was a perfect capstone to a perfect year by Michalis Cameritis, and it's exactly what the Queen herself would have wanted. Well, you know what else the Queen would have wanted, David Hood? She would have wanted us to move on to the next and perhaps greatest award at VDL. It is in a field crowded, overcrowded, really, with lawyers. This lawyer stands above the rest. It's the VDL Lawyer of the Year. And in the past, we focused on onboard performance, but this year we really wanted to give it to the lawyer who had the best lawyering year, not on the board, but in the courtroom, who was doing the most in their profession, who was having career success and advancing the legal field. And this was really a no-brainer. I didn't have to spend any time at all thinking about it because it was so obvious who the best lawyer of the year was. So let's give it up and give our attention to Andrei Gribikov.
Andrei Gribikov, congratulations. You are the 2022 VDL Lawyer of the Year. I couldn't think of a more deserving human being, let alone lawyer. How are you feeling?
Feels great. I'm not sure if I'm deserving of the award, especially sitting with such an illustrious lawyer as yourself here, Ed, but, I'll take it.
No. Game recognizes game. So, I just think that the people ought to know how hard you work as a lawyer and all the important things you did this year. So, how many motions did you write? For clients.
I've got 2 next week I have to work on, and a bunch already, but I can't tell you a specific number. It just kind of
okay, and that takes a lot of researching.
Less than 10, yeah.
And okay, how many trials did you have?
0. As a lowly junior associate, come on.
How many depositions did you take?
It's hard to take depositions as a law clerk, but I'd say...
How many witnesses did you interview?
0. This is like a roast. I'm starting to question why I'm getting the award here.
But how many Supreme Court arguments did you attend?
1, where I saw an amazing lawyer whose name is not Paul Clement argue.
Andrei, just for that, congratulations. I hope you can two-peat and get Lawyer of the Year in 2023.
Great. I'll have to talk to the nominating committee, put someone else's name in, so it's a fair fight.
All right, best of luck.
Thanks, Ed.
Well, that was everything we hoped it would be, David Hood.
Yeah, it wasn't like a roast. It was a roast. And I think that roast is well cooked.
Indeed. Well, I motion that we move on from the VDL Awards to the Hammer Awards, David Hood, the first inaugural Hammer Awards. What say you?
I say yes. Hammer Award time. It's Hammer time.
Hammer Award it is. And David Hood, these Hammer Awards were decided on through the DBN committee of really me, myself, and I, with input from I guess co-founders Brandon Fogel and maybe you as well. But the important thing was really the utmost lack of transparency or discernible process with regards to deciding the winners of these awards, David.
I think that's the best part of the awards themselves, are the lack of discernible process or transparency.
Well, someone who actually does have a process and is transparent won the first award, David Hood. Why don't you tell us about it?
We are awarding at DBN a Hammer Award for Organizer of the Year to Bob Zabilder for helping to organize the Olympus diplomacy server for people that want to play on Backstabber without a bunch of people who drop out of games. So way to go, Bob. We interviewed him, I think it was last month or the month before last on Deadline. You can go back and watch that, but he's a young fellow who is stepping up and taking responsibility. And so he is our Organizer of the Year.
And well done by Bob Zabilder, building a great thing over there. Many more awards and accolades to come for him, no doubt. Well, let me take a moment now to introduce for you viewers at home the opening of the year. That's right. This isn't going to a person. It's going to an opening, our favorite opening here at DBN of the year 2022. And the winner of the opening of the year is the Armenian fist bump. Turkey, Smir to Armenia, Russia, Sev to Armenia. A fun little bounce. David, what a year for the fist bump.
I have never done the fist bump, will very likely never do the fist bump, and yet I think it's fine that the fist bump is winning the award.
Yeah, the Time Person of the Year doesn't go to somebody who necessarily did good in the world. It just goes to somebody who did a lot in the world. And that's the same with the opening of the year. It's just an opening that was there, and we all saw it, and it was omnipresent.
Speaking of awards for not doing something good, but just for being in a lot of places, this award, next to Hammer Award, is the Everywhere All at Once Award, and it is going to somebody who has done nothing good in 2022, except that he's everywhere. Every tournament, every league, every event, every face-to-face event, there's always Jason Massbaum, the Everywhere All at Once award winner for this year's Hammers. Need I say more? Everybody in diplomacy is tripping over Jason Massbaum every single day.
Could not say it better myself, David Hood, nor will I try to. I will simply move on from that great man to the great power of the year, David Hood. There were 7 nominees, and we narrowed it down to just 7 finalists for this award. And of those 7 finalists, after a vote or just a random die roll or what have you, the great power of the year, with, I assume, very high stats. I'm not a nerd, so I don't know. It is Russia.
Russia wins the Hammer Award. Russia has had a little bit of a bounce back from a couple of years of really poor play. And so we thought that it would be good to try to, pat that fella on the back, and therefore jinx Russia for 2023 is probably going to get creamed in every game.
Russia will get a jolly good seeing to in 2023. I have no doubt.
I agree. Now, if we had a great power of the year, we need a great alliance of the year. And I don't think there's any question that the alliance of the year Hammer Award for 2022 went to the Kraken, which is released often in virtual play, probably needs to be released even more. I know McCarless in particular, who just was on the screen, is a big fan of the IT, the Italo-Turkish Alliance, but we thought Kraken deserved the Hammer Award for Alliance of the Year, and of course, we are right.
Yeah, we absolutely are right, David Hood. The Kraken is a great alliance. You should do it more often. Do it carefully, do it responsibly, be safe about it, but do the Kraken. And as we prepare to bring Russ Dennis onto the show to talk about his briefing awards, we will just continue to celebrate the Kraken and all that it has done to Austria's, who suffered a brutal year at the hands of the Kraken. If there was a lowliest power of the year 2022, it probably would have been Austria because of that Kraken. Well, now it's the big serious awards, David Hood, for the big serious people who did big serious things in 2022. And so welcoming on to the stream now is the founder of the Diplomacy Briefing newsletter and inventor of the concept of awards, as far as I'm concerned. It is Russ Dennis. Russ, thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you.
Russ, why did you decide, you and the rest of your team at the briefing decide to get into the awards business?
Well, really the main reason is just because we were impressed and thankful for what so many different people in the hobby do. And, you don't have tournaments without people sacrificing their time, and you don't have content without people sacrificing their time. And in reality, you wouldn't have the briefing without these people sacrificing their time. The main core of the briefing is to connect the hobby together. And so our big job is not even so much producing content, though we do have a lot of people write for us in the hobby. our main job is letting everybody know what's going on. And so really the awards the idea there was a way for us and the community to say thank you for really just the abundant amount of time that people put in to make our hobby an exciting and fun place to play.
Well, I've already said this once, but I was particularly pleased to see this concept come back after it was such an important part of the hobby back in the old days. So congratulations and thanks to you and the briefing folks for resurrecting these two awards, for hobby service and for literary award.
Thank you.
Well, David, Russ, we are going to start, I suppose, with the literary award, the Literati Award. From the briefing 2022, we had 5 articles nominated. You can see which articles those are if you subscribe to the briefing and maybe take a look at their past issues, which I highly recommend. We actually have a couple of these nominees lined up to appear on the show momentarily, and we will bring at least one of them on. Another one of them is currently passed out in the backstage and might not actually make it on.
Well, and the other one just had to leave. So we
will bring neither of them on.
Yes. Well, unless right. There's looks like we are not going to get the other one on either.
That's great. Well, Russ, why don't you tell us who the 5 nominees for Literati of the Year are?
Sure. But if I can, let me quick maybe just mention how this process comes about.
Yes.
So back in November, we start to organize out our committees. And so first of all, I want to say thank you to our committee members for this particular award. We had David Hood, he was there. Then also one of our content editors, Jens Bosgaard. I hope I'm saying that last name correctly, but he goes by Rogan Josh on Discord. He led up that committee. We also had Manus Hand, who he was the founder of the Diplomatic Pouch. Also, we had Matthew Krill, who he is making the trophies for our winners. And then also Doug Kent, who is the editor of Diplomacy World, also made some different recommendations. So they came together as a committee, and we look over. Now, by the way, I was not on this particular committee, but the way that it works is they look over 100 articles. Every article that was put out, whether it was on blogs or in zines or however that may be, and they look over it, and then they vote and they make recommendations, and then you come to a top 5. So that's how we did that particular committee. And I want to say thank you to each person that was on that committee. It was a lot of reading. And it was just, again, a sacrifice of time. And again, those people that are on the committee, their articles are not allowed to be nominated. So I definitely think David would have been in the running and had a great chance to get some stuff nominated, but he graciously became part of the committee. So thank you for that, David. But that kind of maybe gives some process. Now on the 5 articles, they continued to winnow it down and make votes. And so we had Eber Condrel. He had on the ethics and diplomacy, and that's from a Diplomacy World issue. Also Josh Hennessy, who's wrote several articles actually for us this year. He had a really good article that spoke about what he kind of learned on the top board in the summer classic that the VWC runs, and just talking about what he learned as somebody who first time playing a top board. And it was very, very good. Greg Matthews also wrote about what he's learned from being an online player and going in and playing face-to-face tournaments. And then also Nikolai Sahuge wrote about his VDC champion his champion's corner. And then also Ed Sullivan wrote on how to make others love you as much as they love me. And so those were our 5 nominees. They were all very good articles. And then, of course, we put it to the hobby for a vote.
Zach, it looks to me like Ed might be available to come on here as one of the nominees. We can watch his reaction.
He's stirring. He's stirring in the studio. Ed, blink twice if you want to come on camera.
Oh, he doesn't need to blink.
He's flailing.
He could be asleep, and if he hears he's on camera, he'll be ready to go.
Like a moth to the flame.
And he's begging us not to put him on. It only makes me want to put him on more. Well, the 5 nominees have been read. And I'm just going to bring Ed, you're coming on. Ed's coming on camera.
Do it.
Welcome to the show, Ed Sullivan.
And he's muted, which is even better.
This whole thing is a travesty. I should have had all 5. I had the 5 best. David Hood failed in his job.
Yeah.
Why did you? I think I failed in letting him be a nominee. But Russ, can you just tell us who won and put us out of our misery?
Yeah. So I wrote a few articles this year. I was not nominated. I was kind of disappointed. And so I was not nominated. I even wrote an article trashing the article that Ed wrote and got him nominated. And apparently people did not read that article, or it was not convincing enough. And so the winner for this year's Diplomacy Literati of the Year, the first inaugural year of it, is Ed Sullivan.
Ed Sullivan.
That is so much better than winning Lawyer of the Year. So much better than winning Lawyer of the Year. That should make you feel good about it.
I love writing for the briefing. It's where I get out all my frustration. So, anyways, I would say I'm honored, but it really was an easy decision. And anyone else who won should have done it to me.
Ed Sullivan, that article is not only my favorite article of the year, it might be my favorite diplomacy article of all time. Required reading for anybody in this hobby who wants to succeed, and especially for someone who wants to succeed despite not being all that sharp up top. Ed, the other thing I want to point out with you winning the Literati Award for Best Article of the Year is that a lot of people, mostly me, feel that you also could have won the Literati Award for Worst Article of the Year. What does it mean to kind of be so polarizing in that way?
Zach, this is going to be a tough word, but ubiquity is my game. I need to be there. I need to be everywhere, ever present. And I really think if you look at my article, it was my attempt to help the little people. There were people who are struggling, people like Josh and Greg, people, Eber, my worthy co-nominees. Nicholas Algay, he needs help. And what I decided to do was help them. Now, Russ said, no, it's not a good article. I'm a demon. I had to be driven out. But I got it. I'm very happy. You love me. Finally.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Ed.
There's several reasons probably Ed enjoys this. For one, first of all, Matt Krill's going to need to make him another trophy. And so that's the first thing. So this might be the last year that Matt Krill does any trophies for us. Secondly, this particular article, its existence is owed to the fact of a series that I created. And a series that I purposely, like I mentioned, went last and talked about how not to be conned by Ed. And so with the best of intentions, Ed has still plowed through and won this award. So as it is, you definitely deserve it.
It's just like our games.
No, you don't have as good a success in those. So.
Congratulations, Ed. And we have another award to give, don't we?
You do?
To me?
The Hobby Ambassador of the Year award, Russ Dennis. Ed was not even considered. He was not on the list. His name was nowhere near this award. Who were the 3 finalists for the Hobby Ambassador of the Year award?
So for this award, I was on the committee, and that is why Ed was not on it and not even really considered seriously. So, you know, there are so many different people in the hobby that does so much. I mean, our list of possible nominees was over 70 people that in some way or another contribute to this hobby. And again, these are just kind of some fun awards, but I hope everybody watching will, understand that, we really appreciate what everybody does. This is everything that's done in the hobby is a passion project. No one is getting paid anywhere commiserate with the amount of time that gets put into this. And it's all done because we love doing it. So I guess that's probably the first thing I want to say. The ambassador of the award is given not just for somebody who puts in the most time in the hobby. It's done for those that are, I would say, a unifying presence that helps bring the hobby together. That these are people that are concerned about the health of the hobby. Sometimes you get people that they very much focus on something, and it's like they're a little king in their realm, and they're more focused on their little thing than the hobby as a whole. So again, to be a hobby ambassador and to be an ambassador of the year, you need to be someone that wants to see hobby health all around, and that you strive to bring unity. And of course, Zach, you won it last year, and was definitely a very worthy person to be able to win that first year. The three people that were nominated this year was first off was Dave Miletsky. And do you want me to go through all three?
Let's stop at Dave Miletsky because we have the Dave Miletsky announcement from sideline reporter Christopher Ward.
Former NADF President Dave Miletsky is a top player and a top hobby organizer. The longtime host of Diplomacy at Carnage had the task of organizing the first World DipCon since the pandemic and duly delivered for more than 50 players hosted at Vermont. Elsewhere, he can be found on Discord welcoming new players into the fold, debating the merits of various scoring systems, and also helping out as a GM. Whichever hat he's wearing, his choice is a big sombrero.
Well, that is
Marcus
Dave
Zylstra,
Miletsky,
aka
and I'm
Captain
jumping the
Me.
gun with this spoiler on the next one. Russ, tell us about the next nominee who I just spoiled.
Yes. So the second nominee is someone who has started several new initiatives in the hobby this year and really made this a fun place. It is Marcus Zylstra, also known as Captain Meme, is his online handle, and he is our second nominee.
And here he is at the proper time.
Marcus Zylstra, aka Captain Meme of Diplostrats, is a prolific behind-the-scenes hobby hero. In addition to his very, very time-consuming content creation, including the April Fool's Diplomacy Winks video, Marcus is an admin on the VWDC and NADF servers, stepped in to help out the online diplomacy championships, and recently founded Blitz Diplomacy. Just make sure the bots don't take over. I'm sorry, Captain. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Thank you, Ward, yet again, Marcus Zylstra. And our third nominee, Russ Dennis.
Yes, our third nominee is Brian Pravel, and he does a lot of behind-the-scene work for DBN. Also does a lot of even run camera with League Night, and also is an organizer there in Chicago for the Windy City Weasels. That is the best Wardy has sounded all night.
A perfect tribute to Brian Pravel, Mr. Mute himself.
Yep.
Well,
Perfect.
we've got
and the hair, and he had the hair right too.
Yeah, exactly. That is Brian's spiritual hair. We have a couple of the nominees here with us today, the two who actually know how to use their microphones. So welcoming onto the stream right now are those two nominees, Marcus Zylstra, hello and welcome, and Dave Maletsky, sombrero and all. Thanks for joining. Well, Russ, you've got their hearts and their hopes and their dreams in your hands and your hands alone. Why don't you tell us who the winner is? And this is news to me, and I think it's news to Hood as well.
So before I announce this, let me just say my suggestion was to just have the winner come on. And David Hood was like, no, let's get as many people as possible so that we can see tiers and everything else. Let me just again say, like, we are so appreciative of what everybody does in the hobby. These are just fun awards. For our ambassadors, we do have a trophy we're going to be giving to each of them in recognition, but then also we'll have one that's particularly for the ambassador award. And again, we put the ballots out to the whole hobby. And so this year, as a hobby voted, the person that was the top vote getter for Hobby Ambassador of 2022 is Marcus Zylstra. Congratulations.
Congrats, Marcus.
Thank you.
Way to go, Marcus. Tell us about how you beat
well
Maletsky. Tell us, how did you beat Maletsky in this thing?
I mean, honestly, Maletsky is probably more deserving of it than me this year. Like, the amount of work that was put into World DipCon and all that was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, this has just been an amazing year for diplomacy all around. I think Brian would also have been an incredible winner here.
Dave, what do you
Marcus.
have to say for yourself? Dave, what do you have to say for yourself?
My favorite part of this is that I had to sit idly for an hour staring at the screen to achieve this result.
That's the way you achieve most of your results.
I think the deciding votes, given the DBN videos that I watched after Carnage, were probably Peter McNamara and Saren Kwok. I think that's where we're at.
Seriously, though, Dave, congratulations on a wonderful World DipCon. We're all kidding around about this, but obviously we all agree with Marcus that all three of you were spectacular nominees.
Mm.
Well,
David, this is
both nominees.
This is a complete travesty, David. I have questions for Marcus now to justify this alleged victory. First, okay, and you need to be honest here. The AI that you developed, did they vote for you?
That's a very good question. I am certain they did not, and there was absolutely no weird results in this vote whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me mention a little bit on that. So we do it through the briefing for the very reason that there's not vote stuffing. So it's sent out to our subscriber base, and so each email gets it, and then when they put in their vote, it connects it to that particular email that they received it. So there's no ability to actually vote stuff the ballot. That's why we do it.
I don't know. AI seems to do everything, but Marcus, how did you get Peter McNamara to allow you to convert his brain into the AI?
Oh, that wasn't me. That was the researchers at Facebook. They're much smarter than me at, getting Peter McNamara to do stuff. I've never managed it once.
No, you did it. You won, so you're the AI guy now.
Oh yes, yeah,
okay.
That's a good point. Sorry, it was entirely me.
I know it's not possible now, but one day can AI pronounce your last name?
No, that's impossible for everyone. That will be
I also know that
final challenge.
True. I know you like the game of Survivor. You seem to be a fanatic of the game of Survivor. So, in the game of Survivor, who would win, the chess AI versus the diplomacy AI?
I mean, diplomacy AI every time, right? Easy. But yeah, I can't wait till they actually stick an AI on the show. I think it would be fantastic. Gets voted out episode 1, but it will be fantastic.
All right. Congratulations, Marcus. Great job. Great job inventing Cicero. Everything you do in the hobby.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of you for joining the show, Dave and Marcus. We told them that it would be 7:15 Eastern when we brought them on, and so naturally brought them on at about an hour later. We'll remove them and let them go rest their sleepy heads at this time. Thanks for joining us, Dave, Marcus, and Russ for presenting and leading this award. And Ed, I appreciate you bringing the confrontational interview as well. Now that he's off the stream, we should note it's 60 degrees in Houston right now, and he's dressed like his car just went into a snow-filled ditch, and he's trying to survive. Disturbing to see. David Hood, as we try to put that visual out of our mind, what are some final thoughts tonight?
Yeah, let's refocus our attention back to these awards. I know we had a lot of fun tonight, and that was the point of this show. But also, just on a serious note, wanted to end by saying congratulations to all of those who, instead of just playing the game, try to help other people play the game. That is actually how the hobby grows. It's how it develops. It's how it gets strengthened. And congratulations and kudos to everybody involved.
Congratulations. Very deserving winner, Marcus Zylstra. Dave Miletsky did a phenomenal job with WDC Carnage is many people's favorite tournament to go to. It's a beloved event, and for good reason. Brian Bravel couldn't join us today, but I don't know if people realize just how much he does on BBN and around the hobby. He is behind the scenes on just about everything, and he is tireless to a degree that I will never be. And so I tip my cap to him. It just shows he couldn't be here tonight because he's probably working on some enormous project.
And Zachary, I'm just simply glad that you're no longer the reigning hobby ambassador of the year. Now we can say that's Marcus Zylstra.
Yeah, it seems right and it seems fair, David Hood. Well, thank you, David, for bringing some grace and decorum to this show, and thank you to everybody who came and joined us in the YouTube, in the Twitch, and in the chat. That is all. We bid you adieu and a good night, and congratulations to Marcus Zylstra.